My brother, the golden child, and my ability to take revenge on my family. I've always been the shadow in my own family, the afterthought, the second-place trophy in a competition I never signed up for. My brother was the golden child, the apple of my parents' eyes, the prodigy they paraded around to friends and family. And I was simply OP, the forgotten one, the scapegoat, the one expected to clean up the messes my brother left behind. Oh. From the time we were kids, it was clear my brother could do no wrong. He was the boy who aced his piano recitals, the one who scored the winning goal in soccer games, and the charming child who could light up a room with his smile. My parents showered him with praise and gifts, while my accomplishments were met with polite nods, or worse, complete indifference. I remember one Christmas when my brother was gifted a shiny new bike, the exact model he'd been begging for all year. I, on the other hand, got a second-hand sweater that didn't even fit. "Oh, OP doesn't care about these things," my mum had said dismissively. "She's not like her brother." No, I wasn't like my brother. I wasn't allowed to be. As we grew older, my brother's golden status only solidified. He was accepted into a prestigious college, with my parents footing the bill, of course. I had to take out student loans and juggle 2 part-time jobs just to afford community college. When I graduated with honors and landed a decent job in marketing, my parents barely acknowledged it. But when my brother decided to drop out of college to pursue his passion as a musician, they celebrated his courage and threw him a party. It wasn't long before my brother's passion drained my parents' savings. They paid for his instruments, his studio time, even his rent when he couldn't afford it. Meanwhile, I struggled to make ends meet. My parents' financial support never offered, and my calls for help ignored. But the breaking point came when I overheard a conversation between my parents and my brother. They were discussing how to remortgage their house to fund his latest business venture, a startup he had no experience running. "We believe in you, sweetheart," my mum said, her voice dripping with adoration. "We'll do whatever it takes to see you succeed." That night, something inside me snapped. I realized I had spent my entire life waiting for approval that would never come. I was done being the overlooked daughter, the one who sacrificed and received nothing in return. If they wanted my brother to be their golden child, fine, but I would no longer be their doormat. I threw myself into my career with a vengeance. I worked late nights, took every opportunity that came my way, and climbed the corporate ladder faster than anyone expected. By the time I was 30, I was a marketing director. By 35, I had founded my own company. It wasn't easy, but every milestone felt like a victory against the family that never believed in me. I didn't cut them off entirely at first. Part of me still craved their recognition. I'd send holiday cards, invite them to milestones, and even offer small gestures of help when they needed it. But their favoritism never wavered. Every conversation revolved around my brother's latest escapades, his struggles, and their endless sacrifices to support him. When my brother's startup failed, my parents bailed him out. When he got married and divorced within 2 years, they took his side and blamed his ex-wife. And when he declared bankruptcy, they opened their wallets once again. Meanwhile, I had amassed a fortune. My company had gone public, making me a millionaire overnight. But did my parents care? No. To them, I was still just OP, the sibling who existed to highlight my brother's brilliance. My brother's life began to crumble in his 40s. Years of bad decisions, reckless spending, and an inflated sense of entitlement finally caught up to him. He lost his home, his health deteriorated, and his once charming personality turned bitter and resentful. My parents weren't faring much better. They had drained their retirement savings supporting my brother's endeavors and were now on the brink of losing their house. That's when they came to me, hat in hand, asking for help. "Oh, Pete," my mother began, her voice trembling. "We've hit a rough patch. Your brother, he's struggling, and we're about to lose everything. Could you lend us some money, just enough to get back on our feet?" I stared at her, the woman who had dismissed my achievements, belittled my struggles, and sacrificed everything for a son who had given nothing in return. My father stood beside her, silent but expectant, as if my success was their safety net by default. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not giving you a dime." The look on their faces was a mix of shock and disbelief. "But we're family," my father sputtered. "How can you turn your back on us like this?" "Family?" I replied, my anger bubbling to the surface. "You mean the family that ignored me, belittled me, and used me? The family that only calls when they need something? You made your choice. You chose my brother. Now, you can live with the consequences." My mother began to cry, pleading with me to reconsider, but I had made up my mind. For years, I had watched them pour every ounce of love and support into my brother while I was left to fend for myself. Now they could see what it felt like to be ignored. My brother called me a few days later, his voice dripping with entitlement. "Oh, P, you can't do this," he said. "We're your family. You owe us." "I owe you nothing," I snapped. "I built my life without your help, without their help. You've taken everything from them and now you want to take from me? Not a chance." It's been years since that conversation, and I haven't spoken to my family since. They lost their house and moved in with my brother, who's now struggling to make ends meet. Meanwhile, I've continued to thrive. My company is more successful than ever, and I've built a life I'm proud of, a life they were never a part of. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. But then I remember all the times I cried myself to sleep, wondering why I wasn't good enough for them. I remember the countless sacrifices I made, the pain of being overlooked, and the bitterness of knowing I would never be their golden child. So, no, I don't regret my decision. They made their choices, and I made mine. In the end, I learned that the only person I could truly rely on was myself, and that's more valuable than any family could ever be.